Well, here we are. Time is flying. Yet another half-year update on the grind. And oh boy, do we have a lot of progress to share in the last 6 months since my last life update. Every single stat has increased significantly. I often say this, but there has been huge milestones hit in each of these areas in my game of life. From finishing an exam and progressing in my studies for the first time since December of 2022, from earning the most money I've ever made in my life, from being the biggest I've ever been in my life, having an investing strategy that almost guarantees money, to hitting major milestones on YouTube, all of the achievements I talk about today are all impressive in their own right, but doing them all together is another thing entirely. So, enough preamble, let's begin with the progress in my career. So, you technically progress in your career each year, since each year you work is stacking XP to put on your resume. However, in my instance, for my advanced studies, I managed to pass my financial reporting exam. The 5th exam in my CPA studies, huge for the program. This was by far the toughest subject in the course. And it's over. Last semester, the one I just did, had a failure rate of 42% for this unit, the highest failure rate of any subject. And keep in mind that the other passing rates include candidates on their 2nd, 3rd, even 4th attempts. So if you consider only first attempts, who knows how many failed this unit? Either way, we're done with it. The biggest hurdle in my studies has been overcome. 1 to go.
1 to go.
The last exam is still obviously a tough one, but nowhere near as much. I've already gathered a lot of notes for this at the time of recording. Despite the exam still being more than 2 months away at the time of this upload, so we're in a good spot. I plan on going on hiatus for my exam earlier than usual, just to guarantee I have enough study done. But in terms of proper tangible progress for the career stat, we've officially passed financial reporting. Hell yeah. I also had more security that my job is stable. I don't know if I worded that right, but long story, if my company did layoffs, I likely would not be included in that. And my company appears to be pretty secure with its finances right now. So that's obviously good news to my current career path. I've also had a meeting at my office job relating to my future with the company. I suppose this ties in with what I've mentioned before about job security, but the things we discussed in the meeting related to pay, job tasks, job title, future professional training, amongst other stuff. Obviously, I can't talk about exactly what was discussed. Not only was it confidential, but it's also potentially doxable information. But my main objective was achieved. We received the pay raise I had been talking about for a while now. Hooray! So, we're on a base rate of $80,000 per year, or $89,200 including the superannuation fund amounts. They're also paying for my CPA studies too. I have one last subject that costs $1,335 that they'll cover. But once my exams are all done and I'm officially a qualified CPA, which costs $837 per year at the moment, I swear this was less last time I checked. Crazy, but doesn't matter, work pays for this. So that's an extra $837 to my total package from work. Not to mention little benefits like staff discounts if I ever buy anything or if I take annual leave. For some reason, I get paid more when I take annual leave. I think it's some legal employment agreement. I don't know much about it. But my point is, I'll actually have more than this $89,200 amount per year in wage payments. But we'll use this figure for the sake of calculations. I'll talk more on money a little later. I'll also have a change in uniform. I'll be wearing some different business attire now. Feeling fancy. I will miss having the lax uniform on, but it will feel nice being dressed as a fancy pants once again. And I can always rotate back to my current/old uniform if I want. There's also obviously more roles and responsibilities, which is great resume XP. I don't intend on leaving this job. but if I do, I have some solid skills on the resume. It also will be helpful for potential overemployment in the future. I'm thinking I want to try this in my early to mid-30s. I think that's enough time to build more rapport with the company and negotiate some work from home days, which would allow overemployment to be possible. I don't want to have to leave my workplace to achieve this, but I do want to take advantage of the fact that I work in white-collar work and have the skills to do so. I also have more flexible hours. One of the managers said I can choose to leave at like 3 p.m. on a Friday if all my work is done, for example. Don't have to tell me twice. I may or may not abuse this in the future. Just kidding. Or am I? I also asked for a fuel card. If work paid for this, that would be goated. Most of my current expenses relate to fuel, but they'll look at this later in the year. Given my raise, it's a little extreme to also add on a fuel card too, but I reckon they'll get me that fuel card at some point. That'll save me around $90 per week, resulting in a saving of approximately $4,680 per year. It won't exactly be this amount since there are some days I don't go to work. I'll have a day off, so there's less fuel. But then again, some days I'll go somewhere else that is outside of my usual driving routine. So anyway, point is, a bunch of stuff was said and happened in the meeting. All good stuff. They were reluctant to allow work from home, though, which was super annoying. But enough is good about my role, so there is no need to look elsewhere. Plus, in this economy, I can't be getting too greedy. So, pretty big leaps and bounds made in the career stat, hey. Job security is something many people in this economy would love, not taking it for granted at all. And I also don't mean to come across as gloating. I too was once in the shoes of desperately trying to find a job. I've briefly mentioned it at some points before, but in 2019, I lost my first ever accounting job, spent the next several months applying to many jobs, had many job interviews, tried many times. All the while, my university friends were working in stable employment, making money, progressing in their career, whilst I was not. Although I suppose each failed job interview is one step closer to a successful one. But point is, I too know what it's like to be trying to find employment. I am now on the other side of that, and you will be too one day. You just have to get your bullshit luck out of the way early, just like I did. That is, assuming you have a useful skill set, but I've talked about that before. I also have stable employment with job too. Speaking of which, let's talk about the money stat now. Money stat, much the same with the career stat. We've made some huge progress. So, as mentioned earlier, I got that pay raise. So my base pay is $80,000 per year. That works out to be an hourly rate of $40.49 per hour. That's also about $1,540 a week. But we need to include superannuation. Tacking on another 11.5% to the base rate, that's an extra $9,200 per year. Adding this together, that's $89,200. But as I mentioned earlier, we need to include the fringe benefits or extra stuff that work pays for. I've included $1,007 here. This comprises of the $837 CPA fee, as well as an additional $170. Long story, but whenever I take annual leave, I get paid a little more per hour that I'm on leave. So adding on a bit extra to this figure accounts for a rough guess of how much extra I get paid for taking annual leave each year. It's likely more than this, but who cares? It's just a rough figure. That puts the total approximate package from the office at $90,207 per year. Not bad at all. As for the wagey gig, the Fair Work Commission mandated a 3.75% raise to both the minimum wage and awards. This brought my hourly base wage up from $25.12 to $26.06 per hour at the wagey gig. But I don't work the usual hours. I work during penalty hours. So, we'll use my Saturday and Sunday rates to go off. My Saturday hourly rate went from $31.40 to $32.58 per hour, and my Sunday rate went from $37.69 to $39.09. a $1.18 per hour raise on a Saturday, and a 1.41 per hour raise on a Sunday. If you're wondering why there was a larger increase on the Sunday, it's because the penalty rates are calculated based on the base rate, and since the penalty rate is higher on a Sunday than a Saturday, the amount is higher since we're applying a higher percentage increase to the same base amount. It's why the whole argument of wages need to rise to keep in line with inflation argument doesn't really make sense when you dissect it. This is a video I'll likely make later this year, but if you earn $1,000 a week and your groceries are $100 a week, if your groceries go up 20%, that's $120. You don't need a 20% increase in your wages to keep in line with this inflation, because a 20% increase to your wage means you now get $1,200 a week, so you're now $180 more ahead. Compare this to housing. A 5% increase in a $500,000 house results in a $525,000 house. If your wage of $1,000 goes up 5% to keep in line with inflation, your wage is now $1,050. The house went up 5% and now it costs $25,000 more. Your wage went up 5% and now you earn $50 more. That's also not to mention the way inflation is calculated. And not everyone uses the same basket of goods used to calculate inflation, but I'll elaborate on this when I'm back from my hiatus, which is coming up really soon. I'll have an earlier hiatus than usual, since I want to make sure I'm ready for this exam. But anyway, back to money. I don't think I elaborated on this in any prior videos, but I recently changed my contract at my wagey job. So I always had 18 hours, but there was 1 hour unpaid lunch break in there. However, I attended this meeting with my store manager about a new EBA agreement at some point, and it was a bunch of meh. But as a part of the new agreement, there was some default clause where lunch breaks were defaulted to 30 minutes instead of 60. So I asked more questions about it, and I never realized that I could change my contract to have a half-hour lunch instead of an hour. At the old store, we couldn't dispute this, but at this store, we can. I never knew this, so I changed my contract. So now, I get paid for 8.5 hours on a Saturday and 8.5 hours on a Sunday, as opposed to 8 hours for both of those days. Based on the old rates from last financial year, that was pretty much an extra $2,000 a year. Not bad, considering I would have just been sitting in the staff room otherwise. Now, as for what I currently earn from the wagey gig, $32.58 per hour on a Saturday times 8.5 paid hours equals $276.93. $39.09 per hour on a Sunday times 8.5 paid hours equals $332.27. Now we also get a cold allowance, which is 34 cents per hour. This times 17 paid hours equals $5.78 in extra allowances. Wow, such big money here. There's also laundry allowance, which is like, I don't know, $3.50 or some shit. I won't include it for the sake of this video, especially since some Sundays I will do a different shift, which results in me getting paid a little bit more in that particular shift. But for the sake of this video, the amounts I'm using here are like minimum base case scenarios. So, $276.93 plus $332.27 plus $5.78 equals $614.98. So now we will include superannuation. This is a retirement thing in Australia. Basically, a chunk of our income is withheld from us and put into a retirement fund instead. So, the government is withholding 11.5% of my pay for now, soon to be 12%. The way it currently works is this amount gets added on, not taken from our current pay, when the superannuation rate gets increased. So basically, it's extra money that is paid by our employers that gets taxed, then goes into our retirement funds, instead of being taxed and then going into our bank accounts. Anyway, tack on another 11.5%, so $614.98 times 1.115 equals $685.70. almost $700 per week from the wagey job. This doesn't include if I do an earlier Sunday shift or any staff discounts from groceries, but that's included in my fringe benefits calculation. I'll make a separate video for my calculations on this, but for the sake of this video, just include $300 extra per year in total benefits I get from the wagey job. Point is, that's some pretty solid coin for utilising my weekends, I'd say. Utilise your weekends to get ahead. So tallying up these amounts, we make an average of $37.38 per hour each workday. We make $2,153 a week without including superannuation. That's about $112,000 a year without the retirement fund benefits. And when you include both retirement fund and superannuation, I'm on more than $126,000 per year. Pretty wild, considering this time 4 years ago, during COVID, I was working around 30 hours a week at wagey job. Barely any money, and considering my area in which I live, which is not a major metropolis since that's where the big bucks are, I'm pretty pleased with this. My pay likely won't go much higher than this for a little bit. There's a lot more work involved at, work, to get more raises. We could maybe expect a few thousand extra dollars per year from here on out, but we shall see. Unlike my prior meetings, they haven't laid anything out yet. Last time they gave me 70k base and said you'll be on 80k base next meeting. This time, no figures or promises were made. We shall see how it goes though. Paying for fuel would obviously be huge for the program though. That would cover $4,600 plus per year, which means my total work package, even without any pay raises, would be over $130,000. Not bad for a country town boy, hey. So, pretty good if I don't say so myself. Solid income and job stability. My decisions, hard work, my educated bets and future foresight has put me in a fantastic position. Aesthetics, another stat increase in the game of life. Great to see I'm still able to make progress this late into my 20s and this late into my lifting journey. Even though I guess a lot of that journey has been done suboptimally, but that's besides the point. Nothing has changed from the general laser hair removal, dental work, Botox stuff, minoxidil, same old. Diet is also mostly unchanged. I am trialing a little more cereal in my diet lately, but I think it's causing certain issues with waking up to urinate at night, which disrupts my sleep, which is critical for me to keep this grind going. So I will continue to test that out and see how it impacts my bowel movements. So that script is a little bit outdated now. I've trialed that a bit more, and yeah, it's really messing with my urination. As in, I pretty much am guaranteed to wake up to pee if I have too much cereal. So I'm just not having that anymore. I've literally been having more chocolates, and my weight's barely going up, so I'll figure out some other way to keep this bulk going. So back to the script. But other than that, diet is basically unchanged. Why would it? It's pretty well researched. Nothing new has come out of it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. But the training is where the real progress has come from. I've ramped up volume in the recent 12 plus months by cutting some more time-consuming compound movements and replacing those with more time-efficient isolations/machines. It goes against a lot of the conventional advice you get, but it's worked for me so far. I first got this idea when training with one of my mates, who I mentioned in this Saturday in the Life type of video. The literal Friday before this video was made, that's the training session I'm talking about here. At first, it's easy to dismiss his suggestion, since my friend is on performance-enhancing drugs. It's like, well, he's on gear, so he can train differently. But that's simply not how PEDs work. Yes, my friend has blown up in size, but it's not like he can just jab the upper quadrant of his ass or his medial delt with 125 grams of test 2 times a week and call it a day. He needs to actually train. So, since then, my routine has changed, and it's been working in conjunction with my calorie surplus. This is the longest bulk I've been on, as mentioned in a recent video. I can't even remember which one, to be honest. I had an older guy in the gym talk to me the other day, asking what I had changed in my routine, since he's like, you've gotten way bigger. But most of it really has just been my arms. which never had much focus in most of my training journey anyway. The massive surge I had in gains in mid-2017 to mid-2019 came from mostly upper/lower/push-pull legs hybrid routines. Those routines always have arms as the last thing you do in the workout. Guess what? That means they're not getting a lot of volume or intensity. They're not in focus, and often I just ditch arm movements anyway since I was late for a uni class, late for work, late for some social event, late for basketball. Who knows? Point is, arms were always an afterthought for me, but not anymore. And it's showing. One other gym session, some newbie sort of kid just came up to me whilst I was sitting and getting ready for flat dumbbell press, and he's like, "Your triceps are huge." Very flattering since I haven't really done anything super different for them, other than just more volume. I suppose I am doing a new unilateral exercise, but I didn't think that would be what's causing the recent growth. Later in that same gym session, one of my gym mates is like, "Your arms are fucking huge." He's like, "Chest has kind of grown, but it's mostly the arms," which makes sense. That's where most of the volume has been recently. So given my arms have been a lagging body part for ages, and now they're somewhat becoming a strong part, that's pretty cool to see. Might be worth talking about the new routine, hey. Keep in mind this routine is what happens on a standard week. I don't have that many standard weeks. Yes, my videos make it seem like I have some sort of bulletproof routine, but I do not. In April this year, I literally had 4 gym sessions for the entire month, and most of that had no intensity. Since the 2 before my exam in early April, I was mentally checked out of the gym since I was only focused on my exam studies, not the gym. And the other 2, after the exam late in April, I was getting back into the groove of things, so I was more so just doing movements just to get used to the movement pattern again. Like I was doing like maybe, 50 to 70% of the weight I normally do, and I only did like 2 sets of everything, so it was really not an intense workout at all. For all intents and purposes, I basically didn't go to the gym at all in April. Recently, I ditched a scheduled Wednesday session since my sleep was horrid the night prior. Usually, I'd tough it out, but I just really was not feeling it. And no use trying to push through one of my leg days since there's a lot of potential room for injuries if I'm not focused. I actually fucked my lower back up in early March. It took ages to fix. It's pretty much mostly fine now, but I'm not going to risk that pain and inconvenience again just to tough out one gym session. Plus, the Friday and Monday following that specific Wednesday, I had some social events, which I've actually talked about in some recent uploads. So there goes some time that I could spend on YouTube. And I really wanted to just smash out some current video ideas I have, so ditching gym at least allows some extra progress on that front. It works out well. If I was going to ditch a gym session to produce content, which I would normally never do, then now is the best time for that, since there's a lot of video ideas I have that I kind of wanted to just get out of the way before I go on hiatus. And at the time of recording, most of them are done. In fact, they're slowly being rolled out and uploaded. After I make this video, I'll have 2 or 3 more before my hiatus. Anyway, as for the gym routine, my current routine is Tuesday night, upper/arms, 3 sets of hanging knee raises, 3 sets of chin-ups, 3 sets of either Smith machine incline bench or 4 sets of flat dumbbell press, whichever is free, 2 supersets of rope upright rows, 2 supersets of tricep pushdowns, 3 straight sets of Bayesian curls, 3 straight sets of unilateral cable pushdowns, 2 drop sets of crucifix raises, 3 sets of either the Smith machine incline bench or the 4 sets of flat dumbbell press, whichever I didn't do before, 3 sets of dumbbell hammer curls, 2 sets of unilateral dumbbell overhead tricep extensions, and 3 sets of close grip barbell curls. Wednesday night is legs, 3 sets of barbell hip thrusts, 3 sets of stiff-legged deadlifts, 3 sets of hanging leg raises, 2 sets of leg press, 2 sets of hack squats, 2 sets of leg extensions, 2 sets of lying cable hamstring curls, and 2 sets of cable reverse crunches. Thursday night, arms, 3 supersets of rope upright rows plus rope overhead tricep extensions, 3 supersets of tricep pushdowns plus bicep cable curls, 3 straight sets of Bayesian curls, 3 sets of unilateral cable pushdowns, 2 sets of cable shoulder press, 2 drop sets of the preacher curl machine, 2 drop sets of dumbbell lateral raises, 4 sets of dumbbell flat bench, 4 sets of wide grip cable rows, and 2 sets of captain's chair leg raises. Saturday night, upper/arms, 3 sets of Smith machine incline bench, 3 drop sets of rope upright rows, 3 drop sets of tricep pushdowns, 3 straight sets of Bayesian curls, 2 drop sets of crucifix raises, 3 drop sets of machine chest press, 3 sets of dumbbell hammer curls, 2 drop sets of dumbbell lateral raises, 3 sets of close grip bicep curls, 3 sets of dumbbell overhead extensions. If you had showed me this routine back in 2017 to 2019, even 2022, I would be like, bruh, where's the compounds? Why so many machines? Yeah, there's some compound free weights, but there's so much isolation. Gotta do the compound free weights to grow. Well, not necessarily. Yeah, you get more bang for your buck with compounds, but in the same time it takes me to warm up and do 3 sets of squats, I can get through all my machine leg work. Keep in mind that I work 7 days a week and have gym at the end of a workday. I'm not exactly going into my gym sessions fresh. I was getting sick of warming up and psyching up for massive compound movements most nights a week. These workouts are a lot easier to get into. And I mean, can't argue with the results. I had no one telling me my arms were fucking huge back during 2021 and 2022, when my workout routines were mostly free weight compound barbell movements. Yeah, maybe part of that was attributed to not being in a big surplus, but I know for a fact that most of this growth is thanks to the extra volume specifically in the arms. So, that's my current workout for anyone who is interested. Free workout programs! Chances are it'll change at some point later this year, maybe not by much, but it will change. It usually does. My workout for my last half-year update was also different from this current one. You'll also notice the lack of back and leg volume specifically. Well, I'm doing an arm specialization phase. I can't just add in extra volume for the arms and expect my body to just recover from that added volume. The volume has to be plucked away from somewhere else. It's like a budget. You're not the government or a central bank. You can't just keep adding money. You have a budget you have to work with. If you want to buy something new, that money needs to come from somewhere. I was pretty much at the max limit with my old volume. Like, if I did any more, my sleep would legit be disrupted at least once a week because my body could not physically handle the extra volume. This routine is teetering on the edge. I could not keep up with this for 6+ weeks in a row, given the rest of the stuff my body has to recover from, like 2 jobs, study, etc. But guess what? My life doesn't allow for a straight 6-run week of gym anyway. There's some stuff that comes up. Like, for example, the following Wednesday after recording this part of the script, I have a family dinner on a Wednesday night, so I can't train legs then. So stuff like that allows me to, I guess, stay on this routine, because I'll have to skip a session here and there, but then it allows me to just keep this current volume going. But I couldn't do this volume 6 weeks in a row with everything else I have to do, if that makes sense. Like a social event or a day off, I never really train on a day off. I prefer to stay at home. So the extra volume on the days I can train makes up for it. I can't make gym the #1 priority in my life. The bank loan for real estate doesn't depend on getting 17-inch arms. It depends on earning enough income from jobs and having enough of a deposit. Getting my CPA license doesn't require bigger shoulders. It requires me passing their exams. You get the idea. I'm not a full-time gym rat. I'm happy with the progress I've made. It could be better, but then it'd be better at what cost? Did you do it? Yes. What did it cost? My career stat, my money stat, my investor stat, my brand stat. Anyway, back to my point on less volume for legs and back. My back has been overdeveloped compared to my body. so backing off on volume is fine. You only need like a third of the volume for a muscle area to maintain it. It's twice as hard to gain, half as hard to maintain. As long as I keep my chin-up strength, I honestly should be fine. My back shouldn't shrink. Same with my legs. Not fussed on growing them. They're big enough to the point where I can avoid skipping leg day accusations, and I was never really that fussed on having tree trunk legs anyway. As long as my arms are growing, I'm fine with the other parts of my physique stagnating. A small price to pay for salvation. How's all the Thanos references in this video? So to summarize, I'm getting bigger, and bigger is better. The aesthetic stat is yet another stat that's had some solid progress in 2024. Investor, yet another instance of huge progress in 2024. Firstly, my retirement fund. I only realized around Feb that I had the power to alter what my retirement fund was invested in. I had briefly touched on it in the first week in the life video I made this year, but now my retirement fund is 70% in United States stocks, 20% in Aussie stocks, and 10% in property. So it's primed for growth. Whereas the prior strategy I had, the generic core strategy they recommend, had too much defense. It wasn't overly defensive, but when you're dealing with tens of thousands of dollars, and eventually hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if you have a multi-decade time horizon before I'm even able to touch this, playing offense is usually the better move. So this simple switch will pay off greatly in the coming years. Second, my long-term stocks. Bit of a mixed bag here, but generally they're doing pretty well. I mean, my portfolio was red for several months after starting this, so to see it comfortably in the green shows they're trending in the right direction. It's also kinda beating the market, or at least it was at the time of making this script. Thanks Tilray. Thanks CCJ. Thanks Chevron. What I mean by this is if you include the performance of every stock I mentioned percentage-wise, then take an average, it's pretty close to the market's performance. However, there were a few stocks I had talked about in that video in which I said I was going to either totally sell out of next rally or only keep my eye on them. So if we exclude those stocks that I said I'd get rid of shortly after or would keep my eye on, the performance for those stock picks is around 20% so far in 2024. Or at least it was in the middle of June. Of course, the real trick is seeing if it can consistently beat the market. No doubt my feelings/opinions on some of these stocks will change, and I am allowed to do so at my own will without informing anyone, especially since these are strictly my opinions, not to be taken as financial advice. And I especially am not receiving any form of compensation for promoting any stocks, affiliate links to stock platforms, etc. I'm just sharing my journey in the game of life. Part of my journey just so happens to include stocks, and my learning of stocks, and my own independent analysis that suits my own risk tolerance and available capital. Not financial advice, obviously. Point is, disregarding swing trading, my longer-term investment thesis is beating the market, or at least it was. Since I obviously keep an eye on the market movements each day, and this updated info tells me if it's a good idea or not to buy into certain stocks. Example, lithium. I mentioned how there were some reports that came out in February that could determine the trajectory of the lithium market. Well, so far, still nothing.
7, we'll look at that chart in just a minute. Just want to touch on lithium. It's pretty clear now we've got slowing demand. There is negativity in all sorts of areas. We certainly saw some negativity around the General Motors earnings report. Their EV sales are struggling. So we've definitely got slowing demand. We've got rising supply. So this is not a good balance. And it's apparent now that this could stretch on for multiple years. And that's certainly, it was very difficult to say that 6 or 12 months ago. Certainly 12 months ago, you couldn't have said that. In the USA, the adoption of electric vehicles is falling. It's down to 7% in terms of growth. So that's not heading in the right direction. Hybrids are being favoured and they use a lot less lithium. Europe is far higher, but Europe is heavily subsidised. And you would think that that is something that can't continue forever. So that's the base case. It's not what you would call a robust outlook for higher lithium prices. But then on the other hand, we've got PLS, who seems to be singing from a very different hymn book altogether. They've still got major expansion plans, and maybe this is just because their time horizon is 5 to 10 years, whereas the market price around spodumene and around lithium chemicals is the next 3 months, 6 months. But PLS is still forging ahead, so they're obviously expressing enormous confidence in the long term. Their FY25 guidance is for 820,000 dry metric tonnes. I think there's something like 675 in FY24 at a cost of 675. Now, the current spodumene price, which is a spot price, that's not necessarily the price that the PLS gains on sales, is something between 850 and 920 last time I saw. So they've still got a margin to work with there. It's not like they're losing money. It was record volume in June, but the costs were rising, and that was at 840. So that didn't help the market sentiment towards PLS. And revenues, their volumes were up, production volumes were up, but the price had come off so sharply from a year ago that revenues actually fell nearly 70% year on year, because prices have fallen nearly eightfold from their peak. But PLS still managed to find the confidence to provide guidance, which is really a big statement, because I don't think the market was looking for guidance. The market understands how uncertain the future is in lithium, and yet PLS provided guidance. So that is a real tick. So which one is right? Is the market right? Is PLS right? Are they both right? And it's just a timing difference? I really don't know the answer, but I know that right now you need to be extremely underweight in lithium, and there will be an opportunity building, but I don't have any feel for the timing around that. So you just want to be quite patient with lithium.
So I will continue to not touch lithium stocks. I'll wait for a turnaround. Most uninformed investors would be buying the dip. Well, if you did that, you'd be quite down on your money still. If lithium demand turned around tomorrow, which it won't, I could start buying in then, and I'd have a much better average price point than the investor who kept buying the dip. So this illustrates how the investor stat can save/make you a lot of money. Point is, my longer term strategy is doing well, and I'm slowly refining my longer term approach. This year has been a good example of that. Third, new assets in my trading journey. I've spent $730-ish on the investor stat related assets this year. There was also some freebies I've received as well, and some discounts. Not bad. But I've forked out $730 of my own money to enhance the investor stat for this year. One of these purchases was a trading bot from Click Capital, but I haven't used this yet, but I will in the future. One of these investor purchases was also a paid subscription for TradingView. I paid for this in late May. Reason being, the secret weapon I paid for, which I'll talk about shortly and already made a video on, I lost access to it, but it was still on my chart. However, with the free TradingView plan, I can only have one chart, and I knew my clumsy ass would accidentally delete the indicator off the chart at some point. If I have a backup that contains this indicator, I won't lose it. So, what you do is you sign up for a free monthly trial for TradingView. From there, shortly after, they offer you a discounted rate for an annual plan. At least, they did for me. So from there, I paid for a TradingView account. I eventually got access to the secret weapon back. Funny story, basically I think he was actually a scammer, which doesn't make sense to me since his indicator is actually elite. My mate thinks he got it for free off someone and then on-sold it to me, but I've seen countless buy/sell indicators before, and none of them are as accurate as this one. So I don't know where he would have gotten it from. I think I lost access since it's not like an invite-only script, it's some link that expires. But anyway, all's well that ends well, but I'm in a new hell every time. I love that song. Yeah, I like Taylor Swift, sue me. And with my mate saying I got scammed, I don't really know where he's getting that idea from. Like, I genuinely don't know why that guy who sold it to me, like, denied access after a while. Like, it was so confusing. It's outside the point of this video, but point is I paid for TradingView so I could duplicate that indicator, which I eventually got access back to later anyway. And it's funny now because I also lost access to that, like, link again, but because this time I copied the code, I now have that indicator all for myself. But, like, again, all's well that ends well, but I'm in a new hell every time. So given the fact I have a paid TradingView account now, I'm able to play around with a lot more indicator combinations, and this has already enhanced my trading strategy. I still have lots of practice and tests, obviously, but I'm on a promising path. I have 5 charts I'm testing at the moment, all with different combinations of indicators. I'm trialing out how these indicators work in conjunction with other indicators at the moment. I still obviously have some refining to do, but I seem to have a pretty good grasp of things at the moment. I'm also building a little script, like on, not a coding script, like a little, I guess a Word document on Microsoft Word that goes over what indicators do what and how accurate they've been in my testing. So obviously as this document improves, I'll have better ideas of which indicators are good, which are bad, and which work well with which other indicators. But still got plenty of learning ahead. No doubt I'll find better indicators to use in the future. So that's an update on the swing trading side of things. I'm learning the charts more. It's looking very, very promising. In fact, some days after gym, I'm keen to get home and just surf some of these charts some more. Let's see how this progresses in the coming months and years. As for my secret weapon, I mentioned that just before, but this is another investor stat thing that I've paid for this year. Fourth, my real estate /land/house. Earlier in the year, I received an email from the land developers confirming that the land development was proceeding as planned. At this rate, the land will be ready in August. However, there's always some sort of delay, so let's say September/October. Okay, so updating this script now. Very recently, I've had confirmation from the developer that the land will be ready in September. So let's just say October, because they're usually a little bit late. Wow, so my prediction was pretty spot on. Not bad. So anyway, that gives me the green light to go ahead and sign a contract with the builder. Since if you sign a contract too early and your land isn't ready, there's other fees involved /cancellation fees /forfeiting deposits, aka it costs you money if the land wasn't ready in time, so it's a gamble. You want to sign earlier to lock in lower prices, but if you sign too early, you may pay for it later on anyway. Now, in May 2024 in my state of Victoria, Australia, there were some regulations introduced that meant every new house being built had to be equipped with certain features. These features, obviously, cost more, meaning the home costs more to build. If the home costs too much to build, you can't afford it. Hence why signing before May 2024 was a smart financial move. So this combination of the land developers confirming the land should be ready in time, coupled with the new legislation from May 2024 onwards, as well as an 18-month price guarantee I went over with the sales consultant, all meant that my timing of this decision was as good as it could be. Otherwise, I would have had to pay an extra $20,000 to $30,000 for the house if I signed after May 2024. Or I could have been paying at least several thousands of dollars in fees if I signed and the land wasn't ready by the time the contract expired. The 18th month price freeze basically means the land can title within 17 months of me signing and I still pay the same price we agreed on. There's some little extra bits I have to pay between the 12 and 18th month mark, but it's not important for this video and it's only $1,666 per month. A small price to pay in comparison to what the costs to build are going to be in 12 plus months time. So sign the official contract, locked in a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, 2 lounge, 1 outdoor living home. This home builder was basically the only builder that built a home of this size on my block. As I mentioned in that Week in the Life video, there was some engineering and legal reasons that many other builders couldn't build a home containing these features on my block. I also had 2 appointments at the home builder's head office. It was a nice drive, a nice day out. However, it was an annoying 70-minute drive, but anyway, had a look through all the other designs they offer. I didn't choose any upgrades since they were quite expensive, and the primary purpose of my home is an asset. It's the Australian way, hey, or the capitalist way, either or. But me spending an extra 15 grand on a fancier bath, fancier shower, cooler looking tiles, slightly heightened roof, and a different colour of paint to the walls, for example, wouldn't really result in increased rental income or capital growth. The only reason I'd spend that kind of money is for my personal taste, but I have pretty cheap taste anyway. Honestly, a 2-bedroom house or a 1-bedroom apartment is fine with me, but those don't have the capability for as much capital growth / rental income as a house I'll have. The only upgrade I bought was adding in locks for each of the other 3 bedrooms. Generally, home builders don't put locks on the other bedroom doors, only for the master bedroom and the bathrooms and the toilet. I think it's because usually it's a couple or a family buying a house of this size, especially in this economy, not some solo single dude like me, because it's like, my kids aren't going to lock me out of their rooms. My room, with my current room that I live with my parents, right, has no lock on it, and neither do my siblings' rooms. I generally thought that it was my mum who told dad not to put locks on those doors, because she's very controlling. Asian parents, am I right? But maybe now it's the way homes are designed. Even so, dad could have just put locks on them anyway. But whatever, the point is I upgraded my home. $30 per lock per room, $90 upgrade in total. It probably doesn't cost anywhere near $30 to install a lock per room, but by the time my house is built, and I call out a locksmith to install it or something, he's going to have some sort of call-out charge, and given the skilled trade shortages, you never know what they'll charge, especially in a year plus when my house is ready. And it's also just more burdensome than anything. Like, yay, my house is built, but now let's call out a locksmith for this other task. It's easier to just have the home builders do it themselves, and it's only $90 anyway, which just gets tacked onto the loan. I'll barely even notice this, especially since I've already received like $26,000 plus in discounts from the house anyway, let alone the $20 to $30k I saved by signing this contract before May 2024. So the first appointment was me basically just checking out all the other designs / upgrades they had available. As I just mentioned, I didn't choose any. Could have just done this online myself, but oh well. You don't want to cheap out on travel / time when it comes to your first, and maybe only house build. Second appointment was when I picked the colours for the floors, roof, walls, tiles, etc. These are the colours I picked. They're on screen now for anyone who's just listening. You can't really tell much from this, since some colours were for multiple areas, and some colours were for different areas. There's no 3D render available to show how my house would look with these colours, but the sales consultant walked me through it. I wasn't a fan of the more white / brown looking colours they had, but they did have others, and they were just different varieties of white, black, grey, brown, etc. But they were upgrades, aka you gotta pay more. No thanks. So I went with these colours. There were some options that I picked that the consultant advised against. She's like, oh, it'll look better with this, or this will suit better, or this flows with the rest of the house better. So it may look like I picked some grey slop to you guys, but wait until the house is done. It'll come together nicely. I've also had an appointment with my bank that will do my mortgage. I was going to go with a broker to basically hold my hand through the journey, but the bank can hold my hand. And the bank has a much better deal too. My interest rate with a bank is better than what the broker said they'd get me. It pays to go hunting for tidbits, both in the stock market and in the home loan market. So based on our rough calculations, my repayments may be around $600-ish a week, and chances are I'll just pay down my loan much faster anyway, since that's more equity to use for property too anyway. I'll elaborate more on my plans another time, but I could literally be mortgage free within 6 to 7 years, and likely even sooner once I rent out my other rooms and I'll have even more income flowing in. And having the huge amount of equity available in my house, since I'll have very little, if any debt, allows me to go and buy a second and third property easy peasy. But again, I'll talk about those plans another time. For now, just know I have a master plan in the works, and you'll see this unfold as the years go on. So that's the land/house/real estate progress. There's also the capital growth in the area. As regulars know, I often say when talking about investing, I go hunting for tidbits. I do this with the stock market, and I'm also doing it with the real estate market. I've kind of mentioned some channels I watched before. They're like sprinkled in with like a week in the life video, but my real estate channels are Australia specific, so they're of no use to most of you guys. If you're an Aussie and want to know what channels I'm watching, let me know in the comments. I may make a designated video for you guys, even though I kind of listed them in my most recent week in the life video anyway. Just skip to the Friday section if you don't want to watch the whole thing. Just watch my watch time, it's fine, it's all good. So anyway, the sources tell me that the real estate in my region is primed for growth in the future, despite the subdued growth at the moment. So that's good news for my investor stat. I'm also seeing more and more data showing how bad the rental/real estate crisis here is in Australia at the moment. This is obviously not something to be happy about, but it's somewhat reassuring for me as it shows my analysis on the housing market was right. It was going to get worse, and it helps me further justify my 7-day work weeks. Yes, it does get tiresome, but I'd rather be in my situation, which is working 7 days a week, than the situation of these other people, that is, fighting over limited places to rent. They're not even buying it, and struggling with work. Again, not something to be happy about, but it shows my analysis is right and my decision to pick my career and stick with a second job was a smart one. If, for example, the housing market dropped drastically and there was plenty of homes available, then I would have bought something with negative equity, whereby I'd have to fork out a lot more money to pay this off, and that money would be coming from my second job. So I'd basically be working a second job to pay off a bad investment decision, rather than using that second job's income to fund a great investment decision. Or, if houses dropped in value and I didn't work the second job, most of my savings from my accounting job would be gone, as I'd need this to pay the bank due to my negative equity investment. So again, it's just reassuring. It's not gloating or being happy about the situation of others who are less fortunate. So to summarize the whole investor stat progress, we have locked in a home builder. At the start of 2024, I had not done this since I was waiting for more progress on my land. Thankfully, my friend and I decided to catch up one day. First time I'd seen her in like 1.5 years, and our idea of a catch-up was to go house hunting lol. I mentioned this briefly in my Excel documents video. Goes to show the little timestamps in my game of life. Anyway, locking this in early meant I saved a heap of money by dodging the home build price increases. So, obviously, this is a solid milestone. The land is also progressing. Should be done later this year. We've also gained more stock market knowledge as per usual, but we've also gotten some really good charts set up, and these stock charts have only been in the recent few months. I didn't plan on getting this set up this early. It's mostly thanks to the secret weapon, which I gained from browsing certain forums, which I only gained due to buying some trading bot from a finance-related content creator. Without buying that, I doubt I would have sussed those specific forums. Thus, I would have never found this indicator, meaning I would not have gotten into charting this early. The butterfly effect is real in my life, and no doubt these charts will drastically enhance my trading in the future. In fact, they already have. We've adjusted our superannuation/retirement account to be more primed for future growth, and we've also gained a good chunk of real estate knowledge. I have some great sources of real estate knowledge, and although I can't do much with them yet, I've planted the seeds in my mind for when I can do something with that knowledge. This, once again, goes to show the slow and steady work you put into something will eventually reap rewards if you work hard, smart, and in the right direction. The little bit of work I put in each day has manifested itself into the investor stat you see before you. So, yet another stat in the game of life that has had drastic changes. And last, but certainly not least, well, actually, maybe this is the least as per my rules in the optimal routine video, but anyway, Another stat, another huge update. I had made a video on this whole brand stat recently, my YouTube monetization video, but I will give a brief recap on this video anyway, since this is a life update after all. So at the start of the year, I had less than 1,000 subs. I was not a YouTube partner, and I was not ad monetized. Well, around late January/early February, I hit the 1,000 subscriber milestone. That's actually wild. Shortly thereafter, I hit the 3,000 hour watch time requirement in the prior 365 days, and given that I had already over 500 subs, I was now eligible for the YouTube Partner Program. Once again, absolutely crazy. From once having an idea of starting a channel, to uploading a number of videos that got 0 views, to getting my first initial traction, to now officially becoming a YouTube partner. So good. Now, although I was a partner, I was not ad monetized, which is the main objective of most people when they start their channel. Well, after a few more months, we reached ad monetization. Had no expectation of hitting this so soon. The feeling has well and truly set in now, but it's actually still wild to think that, at the start of 2021, having my own YouTube channel was not in the cards at all. The ideas slowly shaped in my mind over the next couple of months, pulled the trigger in March 2021, slowly started uploading, slowly gained an audience, and now look at us. We're officially ad monetized. Again, crazy. Now, most video ideas I uploaded this year just came to me as I daydreamed at my wagey job. I had no plans to make most of these videos when the year started, so thank you Hyperactive Brain for putting my wagey time to good use. I always daydream better at that job than my office gig. I also found a much quicker way to edit my voice recordings too. This is by far the longest part of making my videos. If you're an avid viewer/listener, you may have noticed recently that in some of my videos, there tends to be a slight break/pause after about 8 to 9 minutes in my more recent uploads. Well, this is a part of the strategy to edit videos much easier. There's a system I found which can change my editing times, but I need recordings to be split up into less than 10-minute sections, so that's why there's pauses. I have to edit each video as a split section rather than as a whole. I think it also works well with ad breaks for YouTube, since YouTube tends to put ads where there tends to be pauses, so that works out well for both parties. I also found some sound balance thing. I just need to set my audio to default 0 decibels or something in Premiere Pro. So hopefully my recent videos aren't quiet. Hopefully they're at the standard volume that you'd hear for most other channels. We've also gained the attention of an actual proper YouTuber, the Internet Anarchist. The biggest amount of clout my channel ever had was from a comment from First Man when my channel first started. So now we've attracted the attention of the real big dogs. Crazy how far we've come. I also learned about Twitter/X monetization. I knew you could get monetized somehow, but I never bothered to look into it. I was listening to some accounting podcast that mentioned it as a side tangent. I am not looking into this. It would be nice, but 5 million impressions within the last 3 months seems like quite a bit of extra work for the brand stat that I'm not willing to commit to right now. I have other goals to achieve first. But again, this plants the seed. I might do something with this in the future. Wouldn't be a bad thing to just post random thoughts and tidbits on Twitter/X and make a little bit of coinage from it. So, to summarize the brand progress, we hit the 1,000 subscriber milestone, we hit the YouTube partnership milestone, and then we hit ad monetization. 3 massive goals for most aspiring YouTubers hit in pretty rapid succession. Once again, goes to show you keep potting away at the stats day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. Eventually, you reach some pretty gnarly results. Wow, what a 2024 so far, hey? It's amazing what you can accomplish when you go chameleon mode / the diversified grind. Lock in on a specific task depending on the environment, and you can achieve some amazing outcomes. I'd argue each of these areas on their own, aka passing a tough subject, securing your employment further, earning what I currently earn, making good gains in the gym, progressing on getting my first home, putting together a great stock charting strategy, becoming monetized on YouTube and having your channel grow rapidly, all of these areas are great progress individually. But doing them all at once? Not bad at all. How's your 2024 going so far? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. That is all.